To begin with, let's start simple. Let's talk about the main character and what sounds are associated to it. For this demo, I used the provided third character blueprint. There is a couple animations associated with that blueprint. In this demo, I only used idle, walk, and run. Let's talk about walk and run first. Both are using the same exact system. This character is essentially a biped robot walking around just like a human. To simulate this, I used both normal footsteps and a sci-fi one-shot. In Wise, I used a good old classic method for the normal footsteps. After recording a bunch of footsteps on different surfaces, I stripped them down to single footstep sound SFX and placed them in random containers, which are then routed to a switch container. A light randomizer has been set on the volume and on the pitch of that switch container to create the random nature of someone or something walking around. Since that container is the parent of all of the footsteps, this will apply to all of those. I will talk about how the footsteps sounds changes according to the surface the player is stepping on in a moment. For now, let's just focus on the character. So this is basically the first part of the general footsteps. The second is the robot aspect of it. For that, I used a single one-shot SFX. Again, a randomizer has been set on the volume and on the pitch. Those two elements have been nested into one unique event and they will play in tandem. Now, the idle state. When the player is not moving, I wanted the character to give some sort of feedback in order to avoid things to be dull. That's nothing big, but that's enough to keep things alive. It's a random container firing sounds at a steady pace. To break that steady pace, I put a silent sound SFX in there and put the weight of it a little over the other sounds. That way, each time the event is posted, there is either an unexpected gap between each instance of those idle sounds or two different sounds playing one after the other. A different event has been created with that container. Alright, let's now see how I call those events in Unreal. As explained earlier, I only used 3 animations for my demo. Those Wise events are living in those animations. I created custom notifies for each. For the walk and run animations, I made sure those notifies fits with the character's foot touching the ground, and for the idle animation, I just put them at 2 random spots on the timeline. Then, I set up some simple visual scripting. I created custom events from those notifies so that every time they are encountered, something will happen. That something is the Wise events being called. Let's take a listen by connecting Wise to the engine and put the player_movement actor mixer, which encapsulate everything I just talked about, in solo. There you go. The character is making sounds. Awesome. But this was one of the less exciting part of my demo, so let's continue.